Welcome. And today we'll dive into the confession and reactions to the post from Shamil Mogi titled, "I let my friend freeze in a park's bench when I was 13. Hi, this is Derek. I just put the drama llama, Fred, back in his pen so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. Oh boy, let's get ready for some confessions. I let my friend freeze in a park's bench when I was 13. I never, ever talked about this, but I just can't take it anymore. I was 13 years old and was going through this unruly teen phase, you know? Me and two of my friends decided to get some alcohol and get wasted after school. It's pretty easy to get booze as an underage person where I come from, so when we left class, we went straight to the market and bought 2 bottles of a really strong drink called AskReddit. We went to a park and at about 5 p.m. we started drinking. We had that rush of doing something illegal, and after an hour or two, we all were already really drunk. About 7 or 8 p.m., one of my friends passed out. He was the one who drank the most. It was his first experience with alcohol, and when he got unconscious, me and my other friends started to get worried. We put him laying down on a bench, tried to give him water and did everything we could to wake him up, but he kept sleeping. A couple of hours passed, and it was getting pretty late, so I made the worst decision of my life. I suggested to leave him there overnight, so his mom wouldn't find out we got alcohol. I unlocked his phone and texted her, "Mom, I'm sleeping at S today." Then we made him as comfortable as possible, and left. I thought he would just wake up in the middle of the night and go home. I was so scared of my mom finding out. In the next day, he didn't answer any of my texts and didn't show up to school. A teacher close to his mother walked in our classroom and said he was in the hospital, in an extremely serious situation. He experienced alcohol poisoning and hypothermia. His brain was damaged by his super low body temperature. He stayed about 12 hours in the hospital before he died. No one ever found out me and my friend were there with him that day, and we swore to take that to our graves. I told my mom I didn't want to go to his funeral because I couldn't take it, but it was actually because of the guilt. I never saw his mother again, and the people at my school don't talk about this anymore. Sometimes I wonder what life would he have had, if I didn't leave him to freeze to death on that bench. What are your thoughts on Shamil Mogi's confession? Please share in the comments below. Now let's go on to hear how some Reddit members reacted to this confession. Controversy Dirt Kong reacted with, "Oh, this brought back a lot of emotions. In my first year teaching, I taught a great kid who would get into trouble now and then. Sweet, shy, liked to drink. Well, winter in this town, it gets to -40. Her last name started with an A. I started the roll call. Called her name. Silence. A few kids start to get teary. Immediately, it was like a movie. An announcement comes on, all staff and students report to the gym. Binge drank, passed out in a truck bed, her friends left her. Froze to death. That same year, 2 kids killed themselves, a teacher died texting and driving, and a principal died at school from a heart attack. I moved away. Dark times. Life is so fragile. Share love while you can." Ali Heirloom reacted with, "Wow. I had a friend who died very similarly in freshman year. The people she was drinking with left her in a car overnight after she passed out and they panicked. I will never forget seeing her lying so still in her casket. I'll never forget you, Cassie." The Benz 1971 followed up with, "If you could go back, would you choose not to see her there?" Ali Heirloom responded with, "Seeing her was an extremely potent life lesson for me and my first glimpse of death and reality. I wouldn't change that. I could have ended up in the same place. As much as that image is burned into my mind, it's reality." Eyeball Beasting reacted with, This is unbelievably heartbreaking. Kids do stuff like this all the time, but rarely are there consequences. I think of some situations of my teen years that could have had dire consequences, and I know I have been unbelievably lucky. Op has nothing to feel guilty about, though I know that won't help him. This was a freak occurrence that he could not have predicted the outcome of. We would probably all have done the same in that situation. I know I would have. I hope Op can get over the guilt, as it is not his fault. Adding an edit because after 3 days I am still getting messages. I am so impressed with all the Redditors out there who know exactly what they would have done due to an amazing ability to predict all outcomes at the age of 13. Hats off to you. Not everyone was as worldly as you were at that age. Op didn't kill his friend, he made a decision that had consequences he could not even fathom, and he is paying for it emotionally for the rest of his life. Rye died followed up with, I don't think we all would have done the same in that situation. This is why we need to educate kids to be smart and not afraid of punishment if they F up. I'm a parent. My plan is that my kids would know the right thing to do by the time they are 13. I hope every 13 years old can. Not a real boy 12 responded with. I think the real key here is to educate our children right from wrong, but also assure them if they are in danger or really effed up, no matter what, come talk to me and tell instead of being too afraid. You have to know kids are going to make mistakes, and the courage it takes to acknowledge the fact they really effed up and need help shows that they are learning and growing. Buttercup 23NZ chimed in with, my daughter's still fairly young, but I always work with her to fix any mistakes she makes before getting cross or just talking through it, if it's not that big a deal. You spilled milk? What do you need to clean it? Okay, now it's cleaned up, how did it happen? What do you need to do differently next time? Or, enough is enough. That's 4 broken glasses this week because you leave them on the edge of the bench then knock them off. You're only drinking water, and only from plastic, until you prove you know how to look after glasses. I was a pretty good teenager, but my friends did some pretty stupid things, and occasionally we had to get adults involved. Each time I was blown away with how calm the parents were when we called or dropped their child off. I have no doubt there were serious words or consequences the next day, but in the moment they were happy their child was safe and alive. I know in 2 cases if we hadn't involved the parents, then the kids would have been too messed up for the parents to shout at. I tell my daughter that she can't do anything worse than not trusting me. Whatever she or her friends do, she can call me and I will come, no questions asked until after everyone is safe. My heart aches for Op. I hope this confession has bought him some peace. It wasn't the wrong call, we adults can see that, but we can also understand why he made that call. And it's happened. There is nothing he can do differently to fix that situation, and owning up would probably only ease his conscience while inflicting fresh pain on his family and his friend's family. But what he takes from it, and what he does in the future, is still under his control, and his to decide on. All Too Visceral reacted with, I don't think we all would have done it. At that age, I would have texted his mom to come get him. It would never occur to me to leave a drunk person asleep alone without care. I stayed with high/drunk friends to make sure they were safe a few times. Mekta Floba reacted with, when I was about 19, 3 people from my high school got drunk and were driving around dark country roads at night. They lost control and slammed sideways into a telephone pole. One of the kids, a close friend of mine at the time, took the hit directly on his backseat door and he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. It messed him up really bad. The other 2 from the front climbed out with relatively minor injuries. My buddy in the backseat looked so bad they assumed he was dead and they took off. One of them had broken his elbow, so they went to the hospital. A few hours later, after he got his cast and went home, he decided to call my buddy's mom to let her know her son was probably dead. Eventually, The ambulance got to the car and found it wrapped around the pole in a ditch. My buddy was flown to Chicago, put into a medical coma, and slowly pieced back together. He had broken all the bones in his face, requiring full facial reconstruction with titanium plates, suffered a severed nerve that cost him his sense of smell/taste, broken ribs, broken pelvis, broken femur, and almost lost an eye. It took them forever to pick all the shattered pieces of his own skull out of his brain. Eventually, he recovered physically, but he was never the same. He went from being top 10 in our graduating class of almost 700 to bouncing in and out of rehab for drug addiction. That guy's life is irrevocably effed, and while the injuries from the accident would have happened regardless, the fact that those a-holes just left him there to die still pisses me off almost 20 years later. Don't leave a buddy behind because you're too scared to call someone. The guilt of leaving someone to die will always be greater than the guilt of getting in trouble for being stupid. Cooking with Dahmer 85 reacted with: my cousin was left for dead after falling out of a truck. Lives in a small town. He woke up not remembering anything, showed up at home and ended up developing really horrible brain trauma, and the friends that left him never fessed up. These are people he grew up with, whose parents went to school with his parents and whose parents went to school with my grandparents. He will likely have to live under someone's care for the rest of his life. Can't be around crowds, loud noises. He went to school to be a motorcycle mechanic. He's still a great guy, but he's not who he used to be and likely will never be able to be who he was, and it's just incredibly sad. I always tell my kids, no matter what trouble you might get into or your friends get into, you call me your dad. We will help. We will pick you up and bring you home. The worst that will happen is he'll be angry and probably chew you out after it's said and done, but he'll always love you and you'll be alive. It's not that great, Ja reacted with: by age 13 I had read enough novels to know that sleeping outside during cold months was dangerous. I also never rebelled with drugs. 13-year-old me would never have done something illegal. A Firefly reacted with: to be fair, Up was also drunk. Decision making is quite difficult when you're 13, inexperienced, and also drunk. Alcohol also makes you feel warmer than you are, while also making you more susceptible to the cold, so Op likely thought it was warm enough, and maybe it would have been if their friend wasn't drunk. Bad Brownie reacted with: it's only hard to blame because of his age at the time. But in all other ways, it was a human decision, made terribly. 444 Treasurer 444 reacted with: I disagree with those saying you need to tell his mom. She has made peace with this. There's no need to dredge it up again, and let her know he could easily have survived. If you do decide to confess, be sure it's for her benefit and not yours. Ask yourself what she gains from a confession. Make sure confessing isn't to benefit your conscience instead of her well-being. PN Trebase reacted with: damn. This is the first time I read something here which actually made my jaw drop. I don't think some people here realize you were 13 and drunk yourself. F man, I'm sorry for the boy, the family, and the two of you. Candidly One reacted with: on a lighter note, I went through the ice when I was like 11 or so. I was effed. Ice kept breaking around me and I had no way out. My friend threw himself in, got to me, and dragged me out. It was cold out, like 5 degrees or so. He took me to his house, gave me blankets while he threw my stuff in the dryer. Saved my life that day. I haven't thought about that in decades. Well, there you have it. A very spirited conversation around this confession from a bunch of fine and caring citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off. Thanks for watching. Good grief. It sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. He must have found more confessions for me to share with you. See you soon.